Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Repo, and this is going to be one of my first ever reviews of One Piece. I thought, what better place to start than just before the end of 2022 when Oda decides to drop a unholy amount of lore regarding devil fruit and where their existence actually comes from. So, the cover story begins continuing on with the German double six, and we actually go a lot back in time. We don't actually know when this was taking place, but continuing on from last cover story chapter, we've got Caesar and Judge sort of reminiscing of old times. And in this one, we have what the boat looks like. So what the mad ship was like. And it's sort of based on sort of like a steam engine. A lot more vertical than a normal like long ship, but seems to be sort of using turbines or steamboat engines to sort of power themselves through the water, which is an interesting design for a boat of scientists. And they claim to be all about a research lab for peace, and they've sort of pacifist flag on them. So whether they were allied at this stage with the government, we don't know exactly, but I mean, maybe. But we do get more information on how they were actually funded. I know a few chapters back, Dragon questioned Vegapunk on how they were able to fund so much. And we actually find out that Lone Shark King Dufeld, a very, a character who hasn't shown up in a long time, considering I think he's dead. He was one of the ones who appeared in Whole Cake Island, one of the kings of the underworld. I know that he had that like grand entrance with all the other and Sussy being among them. But he was one of the ones who arrived at Whole Cake for Sanji and Pudding's wedding, and I believe it was during the raid. He went for the chest. What was it called? Tama Tobacco chest from Fishman Island that they'd ladled with explosives. He went to grab it or use it, but Stussy was the one to um, stop him. And I think she just used like a Shigon, and I don't believe he survived. But way back when, he was actually the one who funded Mads. So this was his sort of charitable donation. So even though he's one of the kings of the underworld, they each have their own section. For him and his, I believe it's a conglomerate, his fund went into research. Now, obviously, he's probably making profit off it in some way or another using the underworld. But little more information on how Mads was able to fund so much of their research. So we kick off this chapter right back immediately with Luffy's group and CP Zero's group having that confrontation after Lucci's used Ryokuogon on Atlas's face. We have the sort of stare down between them with loads of lab members running away from CP Zero's assault. And we've got Chopper and Jimmy's acknowledgement of them there, similar to Luffy. However, CP0 take a very interesting approach to this conversation. We've got Rob Lucci trying to talk to Luffy and confront him and sort of goad him in that way. Whereas Kaku sort of is more of a taking a backseat and realizing, and he voices this to Lucci, and he says, we got to be careful now because Luffy is one of the four emperors. He carries a lot of weight in title alone, and that they can't actually or shouldn't engage and fight without approval from above. So I believe it'd only be the Gorosei that would give him this sort of approval. I don't think. I mean, Akainu could give it, which we do see a panel with him later on talking about it. But I feel like they, being CP0, directly sort of take their orders from the Celestial Dragons and the Gorosei. So I assume that's who Kaku is referencing. And then as Luffy is leaving Bonnie and Jinbei's care and checking on Atlas, we see Stussy's response to this being that each emperor sort of has their own operation. They have their own subordinates below them, and that if they were to engage in a fight with a Yonko, that it would cause an all-out war. But Nevertheless, we have Luffy rushing towards them, checking on Atlas, and we see a massive hole in the side of Atlas's face that's just billowing smoke and probably like leaking oil. We don't really know how these robots are made, but we sort of have Luffy's funny reaction or general reaction to turn to Chopper and ask for help. But Chopper has that sort of funny idea that it's more in Frankie's domain, like it's down his alley, because we still don't know how these robots, they probably are just robots, but that he can do what he can, but it's probably up Frankie's alley to sort. And then we see that aggression coming out from Luffy because Atlas fed them. She used the vending machine for them, and to Luffy that's really important. Someone who's given him food or has fed them in any way, who's taken care. That is important. Then is where we change over to Naval HQ, and we see Akainu sitting there with a cigar, smoking away while he's being reported to that the Straw Hats are on Egghead Island. Now, what's interesting is him being, he's probably well on board with fighting. We know his stance on pirates and his sort of vision of justice. So this declaration of war that they were talking about before, wanted to, at least he wanted to be in the know first. He wanted to have been told if they were going to engage like this. But what's interesting is when he asked where Kizaru is. You see, it actually says he was already on the way there for a prior operation. So whether he was linked already to CP0 infiltrating the island for Vegapunk, or is he going there for another reason? We don't yet know. But we know that, obviously, this man can travel at the speed of light, even though he does it at his own pace, very laid back. This man isn't going to waste time getting there from wherever he is, because Naval HQ is now where G1 is in the New World. So we will see in time how or when he appears. I assume it is to support CP0 and their assault and trying to capture or eliminate Vegapunk. Returning back to Egghead now, we see Lucci and Luffy jumping towards each other ready for a fight, where Jinbei and other lab members and Chopper rushing away. And I believe Jinbei's got Atlas over one shoulder, being much bigger body. Jinbei's probably quite easy to carry, and Chopper in his kung fu point is holding Jewelry Bonnie, and they're rushing away from the fight. But we actually see during this fight the other Straw Hat members and Shaka in the control room watching on the monitors, and they talk about Rob Lucci in this new form, and Shaka references how, quite interestingly, the speed at which he's going is quite astounding. And for the first time, we now get a sort of look at what the awakening of Lucci's cat fruit, the leopard. And Shaka says that it's very unusual that for an awakened Doom, because the last time we saw an awakened Doom was Impel Down and the guards down there, and they'd lost themselves to their awakening. And what's interesting was Shaka saying that the power normally goes to the user's head, and the user loses their personality. But in Lucci's form, he sort of takes on a much taller, much slimmer stance, and he has this sort of black flame cloud around him. Oddly similar to not only Luffy in Gear 4th and Gear 5th, with the sort of clouds around, but also Yamato during her fight with Kaido, when we saw her devil fruit form, her hybrid form, she had swirling clouds around. And I've during this weekend, since the chapter sort of leaks on Friday and then officially releases on a Sunday, I saw an incredible theory that, which actually links to what Vegapunk talks about very soon in this chapter. You know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, we've got Lucci's new form. We've got this black flame cloud. We've got this cheetah, and immediately cuts back, and Vegapunk, the real Vegapunk, appears in the room. And I think what's incredible is he's already shouting to Shaka about whether Luffy's in this warrior of white, this new appearance, and you can just off to the side see Frankie's eyes sort of glow like hearts, like he's finally getting to see the real man for the first time. But we have Vegapunk immediately questioning the rest of Straw Hat about this new transformation and what it means. And for the most part, most of these Straw Hats haven't seen this power up properly. They may have saw it briefly and it was referenced during the end of 1.0, but they just believe it down to being part of the Gum Gum fruit. And that's when Vegapunk's like, oh, well, little you know that the old encyclopedia of devil fruits, the book that the probably current encyclopedia is based off, the ancient text, never had such a thing as the Gum Gum fruit. It never existed. And Usopp sort of jokes saying, well, why has Luffy always been saying Gum Gum whenever he does his things? But Vegapunk's very quick to be sort of entranced and amazed by what he's seeing, saying that he looks just like a god who sort of is the warrior of liberation, brings smiles to people. This Nika, the sun god. And we have a sort of blank reaction from most. I think it's Nami who says never heard of Nika before, and Vegapunk says, well, obviously you wouldn't, because the government have erased it from the historical records. No one knows about it. However, if a desire, if it exists, if people wish for him, then it will never truly disappear. And that is how things are brought into this world, even devil fruits. Now, this is an incredible sort of detailed theory on Vegapunk's part, and very well done by Oda to talk about the nature of devil fruits. So, try my best to explain. He talked about devil fruits are a possibility for human evolution that someone has desired. Now, I don't believe it's just one person, because if one person wishes for freedom, I don't think it may do, but I don't believe it would have the power to bring about the Hito no Mi model Nika. But whether a mass sort of belief, a mass desire comes from. So if multiple people, if a large group of people, if an ancient kingdom of people wished for freedom, then that could give birth and rise to such an unnatural ability, an existence, a evolution for humans. Now, it certainly does bring up some interesting questions to do with other paramecias that exist. I think people, because he sort of gives the explanation of, if I could be this, oh, I'd love to be like that, and says that those powers represent those branching pathways of humanity. However, the nuanced powers of some paramecia fruits, like the laundry fruit, I don't think that someone would. I mean, someone could wish for that, just maybe speed up laundry. I don't know. But it would need a massive amount of desire on their part. And then he puts into context that because these unnaturally formed fruits, these powers, these possibilities have formed in the world, that Mother Nature, the sea, the mother of all nature, punishes them for their sins and rejects them. And that's why they lose their ability to swim. So a fitting punishment, he believes, because these powers exist in a different dimension altogether on their own, dreamed up by the past, whether it be the ancient kingdom or the 1,000 years. I assume it's probably from the ancient kingdom, and the fruits have continued to reincarnate based on desires persisting. So I'm sure there's a lot of more other fruits out there that we've yet to see of people's desire, because I feel like Logias cover a lot, like the elements. Those are like, oh, being able to control flame or control storm, lightning. But it's just a theory, but I'm pretty sure it's Oda confirming how Devil Fruit came about, which is pretty significant that we've gone 1,000, nearly 70 chapters, and it's only now we're getting that mystery unraveled. In the last couple of years of One Piece, we're now starting to pull the threads apart of what devil fruits are, where they came from, how they originate, how they interact in this world, and their abilities being so unnatural. But we see this amazing sort of speed of quite an interesting battle alongside this theory of Luffy and Lucci fighting, and we sort of get this like sort of, I remember one of the early spoilers, this sort of Tom and Jerry type fight of cartoony Luffy sort of reacting and dodging out the way, which is actually very impressive on Luffy's part. I thought that if Luffy did get his awakening, he would be a lot faster than we know he was. And he probably is considered to be faster, but this doesn't seem like a problem for Luffy at the minute. He seems like he's just having fun, which obviously he is, but it doesn't seem to be causing him any struggle. And we can sort of see this throughout Vegapunk's explanation of Devil Fruits and saying that, well, this is just a theory, and isn't it just such a fascinating world we live in, and why he's probably continued to research it. And we get like these reactions from Sanji Shop and Frankie actually watching Luffy in this form for the first time, because I don't believe, unless Momo explained to most of them what his form looked like, he didn't use it up until this point. And we sort of see this clash with Lucci and Luffy using Armentaki, like punching at each other, and Lightning probably using Conquerors, which is interesting. Whether Lucci, I wouldn't put it past Lucci to have Conquerors Hockey at this point. But to circle back, we see that both users, both Luffy and Lucci, have clouds circling around their arms and body. Now, with Vegapunk talking about desires, we've seen many devil fruits so far in the One Piece story, but not many users with this clouds. Now, for two of them to be fighting at the same time at this stage and this late kind of plays into the fact of this desire. So, theory I heard about over the weekend that people have been thinking about, which is a fantastic idea of what Oda might be going for. Devil fruits reincarnate and anyone can eat them. Most people just stumble across it, like Ace just stumbled across his when he was pirating. Same for Yamato. It was Kaido had meant it for someone else and she just ate it out of hunger. Similar to Luffy was hungry. The will of the fruit, the desire of what it embodies, if it aligns with the user, then during their awakening, they get these sort of clouds that represent that they align at the same time. So after their clash, they are blown apart, Luffy and Lucci, and we have Sentomaru appearing alongside this battlefield, alongside S-Shark, S-Hawk, and S-Snake. We have the three Seraphims of Mihawk, Hancock, and Jinbei, all ready to engage. And we sort of get this interesting dialogue where Sentomaru's questioning what side they should be on. But we have Vegapunk giving us an explanation as to how Vegapunk saved Sentomaru when they were younger. And so they owe and are part of the science team and owe Vegapunk that much. So are to ally with Straw Hat and help him. And we then get to see the rest of the CP0 agents alongside S-Bear on the other side. So already in this one space, 4 of what we believe could be the 7 Seraphims. There could be more, but 4 of the 7 Warlord Seraphims and we have this sort of heavyweight matchup, and then Kaku's ready to engage with Esper to eliminate them all, and Stussy points out very quickly that they do not have the advantage in this fight because Sentomaru orders Esper to attack first, and they quickly realize that the authority chips that they carry, so what they need to order the Seraphim around their authority chip, is outranked by Sentomaru's, and we are given a hierarchy of the pacifistas' authority hierarchy, but this also works for the Seraphim. And we have at the bottom anyone who is owning a authority chip. 3 sits Sentomaru, who is a captain of the science team, so I assume Vegapunk has programmed it to listen to Sentomaru over anyone else who just owns a chip, the CP0. Second, we've got Vegapunk himself, which obviously him and the stellar body and the satellite bodies all have the authority chip. And then at the top, we have the 5 elders. However, Stussy explained that they can't be commanded over transponder snails. They have to physically be present with the Seraphim to order and give orders to these Seraphim to attack. So as it stands right now, Sentomaru has all authority over the Seraphim above CP0. So turning the tide against them. Now, Kaku and most people actually get caught in Esper's and Kuma's laser, but you can just see Kaku making it out just enough. So it seems like he's got his speed on his side, and sort of reeling with the fact that they don't want to actually destroy any of these Seraphim as their government property, and it would sort of create this sort of void in what the government's power actually is, the Seraphim being some of the strongest pacifistas they have to this date. We return with Lucci and Luffy fighting, and Luffy uses a new technique. He uses the mole pistol, and he sort of punches through the ground, and because whenever he touches on it turns into rubber, he punches and then sort of makes the ground rubber and uppercut into Lucci's chest and takes quite a sizable hit. But again, what I like is that Lucci isn't going down just yet. We sort of get this interaction of Sentomaru quickly giving orders to what S-Shark, Hawk, and Snake need to be doing. That talk about this vacuum rocket that need the Straw Hats to get through. So I assume this is the tunnel that will get them up to where Vegapunk is, and for Mihawk and for Jinbei's Seraphim to hold back. And we do get a first reaction of Jinbei and Chopper realizing what they're seeing, and we sort of get Jinbei's sort of shocked expression of he can't believe his eyes that they've cloned himself. Like, he can see a smaller version of himself with the sort of Lunarian skin tone, and the 3 of them are resembling the 7 warlords. So I'm very excited to see when the other warlords are going to show up. But during the clash, we see Luffy catch sight of Sentomaru and going over to start up a conversation just mid-fight, as you do. And we get this sort of questioning from Sentomaru of his intentions of Vegapunk, how's he going to get off the island? And Luffy very plainly says, that's what he's asked me to do. I'm cool with getting him off. And as Sentomaru is being reassured by this, we have not just Shigan this time, we've got fully coated armament, we've got this leopard, we've got hand pistol, this giant claw, and just Lucci just piercing the Rue Sentomaru's chest. An incredible shot, and Luffy's just completely in shock. We've got Sentomaru not completely down just yet, making some noise, but then we've got Lucci stood there stoically like, well, we only need to erase the control tower. Now the Seraphim will follow us. And that is where we end the chapter. Now, there is a break next week, but I believe it will either release on Christmas or whether it's scheduling with Shonen, it won't release to the new year. But that was a very good chapter, our penultimate chapter of 2022. And I cannot wait to see where we're going to go next. So, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And let me know what you thought of this chapter.